Hello, and welcome to another exciting episode of the KLIQ Nation's Comic Book Chronicles.
It's coming.
As we shake the dust off of this here, after this here shindig, I am your host, Roddy Katz, and already reminiscent of last week. You can find me at Roddy Cat at Roddy Cat on Twitter, at News Nerds Need on Twitter, at CBCat on Instagram, and you also have the News Nerds Need Reddit. Hopefully, those are going to be a website sometime in the near future. With me tonight, back after a week of
2 weeks.
2 weeks. That's right. Oh, right. It's been 2 weeks. All right. After a 2-week hiatus. Thank you. Agent underscore 70.
I'm back.
That's grand. You can find him at agents underscore 70 on Twitter and Instagram at that same address. Hopefully, as I wait, what? Oh, okay. Shout out to Matt Wang. Not with us tonight is Tim Dog 98. But
I was about to say yay, boo. I'm not sure.
No, I was gonna say, but hopefully we will have him back pretty soon from what we're hearing through the back channel.
Let's hope.
But until then, you can find him at TimDog98 on Twitter, KLIQ Nation on Twitter, that's KLIQ and at CBCron on Twitter, and of course thekliqnation.com and CBR. Go check out his works over there and all the good works he's doing. Sounds like he's cooking up something from one of his tweets I saw earlier. All right, folks, you know how we do this. The podcast, we can find that on SoundCloud. You can also find it on...
Did you mention PCN underscore dirt?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, wait. No, actually, I did not. I'm sorry. Because I just thought about that. Because he was going to be with... he should be on his way home and should be with us soon, which is why I was like, but anyway, but you can find him at PCN underscore dirt on Twitter, Pop Culture Net on Twitter, Pop Culture Network, and INeedComics.com.
Cool.
But yeah, should be with us relatively soon. So as soon as it gets home to get settled. But until then, like I said, podcast, you can find us on cspn.us. Go over there and check us out, along with other podcasts. You can also find this here podcast on Google Play and Apple iTunes, aka Apple Podcasts, whatever they call it, and on SoundCloud on the CSPN SoundCloud channel. And of course, shop.cspn.us for merchandise for this here show and other shows on the network. Go get some stuff over there and help us out a little bit. So, as we tend to do about this time, we're going to start out with the books from the week. And what we have decided to start off with is Immortal Hulk number 4.
Yeah.
You can supply your own sound effects.
There you go.
Reddit.
So, this issue is the continuing saga of one, not Jack McGee, but definitely a reporter whose last name is McGee.
I love it. I love that they used that from the old TV show.
So this reporter from the Arizona Herald is on the hot on the heels of Bruce Banner, and we find ourselves in South Dakota, where Ms. McGee meets up with none other than one Walter Langowski. And if you're not sure who Walter Langowski is, that is the civilian identity of one Sasquatch of Alpha Flight,
which we rarely ever see, ever, much less these days.
Right. We never see him in human form.
Mm-hmm. So, but what we come to find out during the course of this issue is that there is, and I don't know if this has been established beforehand. I don't quite remember, but there is a connection between one Bruce Banner and Walter Langowski.
I think that it has been established previously. I did not realize that. I don't think, I think what Al Ewing does in just a few pages really establishes the dynamic between the two as college students, as opposed to scientists in later years.
Right, and there's a weird Fantastic Four similarity. Like they're not as close as Ben and Reed.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty much had a similar dynamic. Water.
Well, I was going to say it actually reminds me of. It's funny that you mentioned the Fantastic Four, but it reminds me of the UFOs too, because if you recall, the UFOs tried to recreate what happened to the Fantastic Four, and it all went. Well, obviously they were all of. They had ill intent, but what happened to them wasn't nearly as. Well, it's hard to say because of what happened to Ben Grimm. I was going to say it wasn't nearly as easy to cope with, because obviously Ben is still forever coping with his transformation. But the UFOs, kind of had this the much more negative side effects to their transformation. And one of the things that Walter Langowski ended up with is kind of a case of the furries as opposed to Bruce Banner.
Yes. Which brought up another question also in that, because I was like, okay, so from what we found out that he basically did, from what we found out that Walter did the same, he basically did what, like you said, the UFOs did and what other people have done and tried to copy Banner's experiments. And once again, I still don't know. And granted, Alpha Flight is one, I only know X amount about Alpha Flight, but I don't know if it was established that his powers were gamma inspired, which is weird.
What I was going to say is, my understanding is that they were inspired by, they kind of tap into the spiritual thing,
which they do.
Right. That I understood. I don't know if I remember reading 100% that it was a gamma based as well.
Exactly. So that part right there was like, okay, I know he's trying to establish some links here, especially with that whole Green Door thing that's going on in this arc.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm like, having the similarities between Sasquatch and his powers, kind of weird, especially the gamma one, because I was like, something like that part doesn't even seem like it's right. As we are being joined by one PCN_dirt.
Yay!
Hey.
Hopefully you can hear me.
Welcome.
We can't hear you.
What I miss?
Actually, you didn't miss anything. We just started talking about Immortal Hulk.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I like that book. I read it.
Well, what you got to say about it?
I like how the horror elements returned in this one. You kind of lost them a little bit in the last issue, where it was doing the different artists telling the same story from different perspectives. But in this one, you're kind of going back to, it feels like it's just going to be your straight, superhero book. But then towards the end, it takes a kind of dark twist that I enjoyed quite a bit, actually. This book is a lot of fun. It's a lot more fun than I expected from a book bringing back a character from the dead that shouldn't have, and yet it found a way to do it and has made it interesting.
Yeah, we were also talking about the similarities of the old 70s show that they're putting in here also, which I thought were nice touches.
With him wandering from town to town, doing the nomad thing.
Yeah, having a McGee reporter hunting after him, which in this issue they actually meet, which actually has happened in the show. Now that I think about it, but no.
I also like the crack about purple pants. He's like, yeah, but I'll have these long enough they'll be back in style.
Yes.
But yeah, the only thing that's missing is the theme song and the ending song.
Yeah, but that's what you got Spotify for, right?
That's right. All right, here we go. Spotify or YouTube? We will find it.
Definitely. Yeah, we were also just talking about we didn't understand, well, not to understand, but the links between Sasquatch's powers and Hulk's powers being as close as they were.
Well, and I'm not that familiar with Alpha Flight, so I will readily admit.
I was about to say that's the caveat that we have to give out to everybody. We just don't know Alpha Flight that well.
And it may be totally legit, as far as I know. That very well could have always been the case, that he was trying to replicate it and it just ended differently. I don't know, but I'm willing to go along with it because I don't know it that well. Sure. Maybe if I was a bigger fan of Alpha Flight, I'd be like, that's not right. That's not how it works. That's not how it, but I like the book, so I'm rolling with it.
Yeah. I mean, and at least they still like Agent Sody said earlier, he do still mention the spiritual aspect of the beast and whatnot. So at least that is there. They just happen to add this other thing to it. So, which is still kind of weird, but it is what it is.
But yeah, it is a very fun, enjoyable book. Like I said, and I guess part of it is I expected so little out of it because when they killed Bruce Banner, and so then they're like, okay, well, he's gone. Oh, now he's getting a new series. He's coming back. And it was one of those, flip the table over. No, you can't do that. They always do this in comics. They never make it last. They never make it worth anything. But I've been surprised at how much I've enjoyed it.
Yeah. I can continue to be curious as to where they're going to take this, because I wonder how, what kind of legs this is going to have.
Yeah, my biggest fear though is that in 3 months or 4 months it's going to have to cross over with something in the Avengers or something, whatever Infinity story happens to be for that month, and something's going to have to cross over. It's going to throw it off the rails, and we'll never get it back. That's my biggest fear.
Yeah, I can dig that. I was just going to add, maybe that's why they put She-Hulk on the team, just so that they could let Ewing tell a story for a little while.
Maybe,
instead of putting Bruce Banner on the team.
Right.
I don't know. They've been a team without the Hulk before, though, so I couldn't
imagine. In terms of not recreating the movie squad.
Sure.
Like they kept the big three together, and then they kind of mixed and matched. But when I saw that they put a Hulk in, I was like, oh, I wonder if they're trying to rebuild the movie squad.
Who knows? No Hawkeye, so
right.
Well, my hope is that when Ewing sat down to plot out the book, when he was given the job, that hopefully he sat down and said, this is what I want to do. This is the first arc. This is the second arc, whatever. And I want to be, cut off, left alone. And so they just carved out this chunk to let him tell his story. Because that was always one of the things, like with the Nova books. It always happens with the Guardians of the Galaxy books. Whenever someone's, telling a decent story and they're getting out there and they're doing something fun, then suddenly there's some big crossover. There's some big event. Everybody gets pulled into it. It derails what story they were doing, and then they never get back to it. So I just hope that he's dealt with editorial. He put them in their place, and he's made it clear that he's going to tell his story.
That's funny. There's no editorial like that, but sure, yeah, I'm sure they gave him some kind of leeway. But yeah, we'll see how that goes. So that being said, unless anybody else has anything else to say about Immortal Hulk, we can push on to something else. Okay, great.
Go ahead.
There's that. Let's see. What's the one? Trying to see if there's one we've all done, and there is that not thing. So, Mr. Miracle number 10. You know, at least a couple of us has read.
Yeah, actually, I tweeted Mitch Gerards on Tuesday night. I said, "Do you get a royalty if your book appears in your book?" Because Mr. Miracle's wearing a Sheriff of Babylon shirt, you know, at one point in there, and he just sent me back a animated GIF of the spinning top from Inception.
Nice.
That's pretty cool.
Okay, so I'm trying to figure out, you know, when they're working on some of these high concept stories, it's like the small details that they throw in there come back to be something big later on. Like they're there for a purpose. They're there to set something up. So I'm trying to figure out how Galactus comes to the DC universe, how the Silver Surfer turns into a dog.
No, right?
And who's going to become Silver Surfer's new friend so that Batman can stop Galactus?
So I thought about that when I was reading that, and I'm sorry we're kind of spoiling it a little bit for Agent 70 here, so we're trying not to get too bad with it. But when that part came about, I thought that was a funny thing. But at the same time, what we saw, what they're going to do at the end of this issue, like, okay, that partially. Oh, hey, there's Golden Retriever right there. but yeah, I was trying to wonder that, but then I was just thinking, I was like, okay, maybe part of that's not gonna have nothing to do with that. It's except for the part where the Galactus, you know, where Galactus is basically Darkseid, and you know it's gonna end up there.
Well, okay, so Kirby has his hands in all this stuff, right? So I'm sure there's some sort of connection to be drawn there, and obviously, Funky yelling out Excelsior is obviously a throwback there. But yeah, there's something about that whole idea, because, and I'm not going to spoil what what Scott's actually dealing with in this issue. I don't want to spoil what the concept is here that he's wrestling with, but there's something about he's looking at the problem, trying to solve the problem the way his father solved the problem. And you get this weird little story in the middle about this guy who's supposed to be a bad guy, but he finds a friend. So then he goes and gets another hero to come help and stop the big bad guy, the Golden Retriever. You know, friendship is somehow going to cure all. And so I got to think there's some sort of, this book has been so dark and so twisted and so warped. There's something about this idea of the friendship, you know, the dog and a little boy is, you know, just kind of that pure, unadulterated friendship. So there's got to be something about that, something about, you know, maybe it has to do with the baby. I don't know. But there's something about that's got to tie into this, because it's just too weird for it to be a random page filler in the middle of this comic.
You're basically saying that the story was the vase.
Yes. Right.
Yeah. But and I thought about that too. It's like, yeah, exactly, because there has to be something like this story is not. I mean, that story within the story was not just for that, and was not just. Well, it's probably just to set up to what's going to happen next, obviously. But you know, there's probably more to it that's gonna, you know, play out somewhere in the next couple of issues.
Yeah, well, and there's always layers built on layers built on layers. And one thing I had theorized before is that we may be seeing things out of order, that maybe what happened in the first issue happens at the end of this, but then they referenced it in this issue. So yeah, exactly. It clearly shows that it's progressed from that point. So my theory goes down the toilet. I was wrong on that one. So
yeah, you weren't alone too, because I was writing out notes for this, and then right before I got to that part where they referenced it, because I even said, it was like, well, it looks like they're gonna wrap back around to it, and then they referenced it. I was like, oh well, scrap that.
Yep.
So,
but yeah, I love the series. It still continues to amaze me, and I love the artwork, and I know a lot of people don't like the whole 9-panel or 1-panel thing. It's kind of like an old school comic trope doing the 9-panel, 1-panel. Keith Giffen used to mess around a lot with that. Frank Miller's played with it sometimes. They're using it in this book like to death, like hardcore. And I love it. I know it bothers some people, but I love it. So again, I love this series, and I love just about everything about it.
Yeah, I mean it's not broke, so why fix it? I mean,
Right.
theme. So the only other thing I had to say about it is like you also get a built-in joke with Mr. Miracle, Blue Beetle, and Booster Gold coming out of a bar as opposed to one into one.
Well, and Skeets was drunk too. Skeets
Yeah.
had the little bubbles coming out from him. So yeah.
And Big Barter's still the GOAT.
How do you get a robot drunk? I mean, that's the question.
Intoxicated oil.
Do you switch the oil for like vodka or something? Like it still runs the engine, but
And you know, we don't know what's in WD-40. You know,
that's true. I seriously don't know what's in WD-40. That is true.
No, it could be something robots don't, you know, get blitzed off of.
All right then.
But but yeah, that was Mr. Miracle number 10. It's still good. Hopefully, it still seems on the way to panning out into some gold, like another book for the competition has laid out.
Yep.
Anybody else got a book to throw out? Agent Devin, you want to throw out that the Wars?
Sure. So I will talk about a book that came out this week that had a prologue last week. What I'm speaking of is Infinity Wars #1. I'm going to fold in Infinity Wars Prime #1 because I wasn't here last week, and just mention that Prime #1 really is required reading, because it's kind of weird that Prime #1 wasn't the first issue of Infinity Wars, because it's that much of a required read. So because one thing that came out this week was a second printing of Prime #1 with a spoiler cover as the second printing of the book, and it came out with the spoiler of what happens in that book, and what happens in that book has a direct impact on how this story progresses, because we are dealing with the aftermath. I don't know if you guys spoke. I didn't have a chance to listen to last week's show, so I don't know if you guys spoke about Infinity Wars Prime #1 last week. Yes, no, I see nodding heads. So
I did not. So I don't think we did.
No, we didn't. Because I didn't get it either.
So getting back to why it's necessary reading, the main spoiler, the main event that happens in that particular issue leads directly into what happens here. Essentially, we've been dealing with the reintroduction of the Infinity Stones as opposed to gems in the Marvel universe, and a relic from the previous iteration of the Infinity Gems, the Infinity Watch, is sort of being reformed in a new version, and that's what Infinity Countdown was all about. So what we have at the beginning of this issue is a new version of the Infinity Watch, somewhat coming together, but we're dealing with the immediate aftermath of the events of Infinity Wars Prime. So it really is, to me, surprising that Marvel didn't just double size issue #1 and just put kind of squish those two books together, because that's what makes up the first issue or the first really big, like, supersized issue of the storyline, because it's absolutely necessary that you read them together. I don't want to spoil anything, because there's a lot of stuff happening in these two issues, and it's shaping up to be a pretty interesting crossover. Definitely drawing on a lot of the things that have happened in Guardians, and definitely tying in much of what's happened in the Countdown books as well.
I was going to say, I know a really big spoiler was leaked by just about every comic site this week. So,
yeah.
So I think everyone knows it. Like, I still don't want to say it just because it is a spoiler, but I think everybody knows. Well, the two things: the reveal of who the hidden character was, and then what that character does at the end of the book.
Right. I was going to say I've been kind of unplugged from the internets for a little while, so a lot of this was news to me, and it was a pleasant surprise to not be spoiled ahead of time.
You probably feel healthier too, being disconnected from the internet for a while.
Yeah, exactly.
Really. And I was about to say, going back to what you were saying about the doubling up, you know good and well they probably don't want to miss out that extra $4 to $5.99 on a number one book.
Mm-hmm.
Therefore, because you can see that with
people won't pick up a $10 book, but they'll pick up 2 $4.99 books.
Mm-hmm. So that is why those Prime and Alpha, those Alpha and Prime books are kind of the way they are. Oh, that is that for that then. Yeah, I know. Yeah, I need to catch up on this silly thing because I know we'll be talking about it later on. But excuse me. And I guess I will go ahead and throw out a book really quick. Star Wars 52. Because apparently something canonical happens, I guess you could say. I don't know if that would be the right thing to say, but nevertheless, so this is in the middle of their, well, I guess the middle and close to the end of their Hope Dies arc, where we see the comings together of what we know to be the Rebellion fleet, particularly with all of the Mon Calamari ships that they have gathered, which is also still funny because in recent issues of Darth Vader, you see basically the beginnings of it, because as you know, Darth Vader is like right after Darth Vader turns and before the Death Star blows up and all that kind of good mess. So you see part of another angle of it, but this is after all of that anyway, so it doesn't really matter. So they've amassed a bunch of ships. They had the help of this other queen who apparently is a triple agent, and she causes some things to happen to where to put the rebellion into a trap. So they're stuck and getting picked off like flies until just so happens Han and Chewie come back from their mission, and they give the folks a hand, and also get chased by Darth Vader in the process. But during the course of this issue, we see, which I guess I was going to talk about later, but I'll just go ahead and do it now, the culmination of Rogue Squadron and the origins of the name of it, which, if it's not apparent by now, apparently goes back to Rogue One, the movie, which is weird because, like, I get it to a point, but like halfway through while things are going on, like Luke just happens to be like, well, what would Jyn Erso do, or that kind of situation, because they didn't meet, but this crew's been to Jeddah and all that stuff. They got flashbacks to Rogue One anyway, but just in the middle of all the fighting goes on, and he's there with Red Squadron, which will now be known as Rogue Squadron, which, if you know Rogue Squadron, there's a bunch of video games, based off of that. This is where he coins that, because he says something like, well, if we're thinking like Jyn Erso, then this is how things are. And then I think Wedge was like, well, what's our call sign? Because they used to be called Red Squadron, but that was before that was around the time of when the Death Star blew up. And most of the people from that squadron died, and this is a new squadron. So they started calling themselves Rogue Squadron going into the battle. And hence that name was born. So which means now Rogue Squadron is now tied more closely to the movies, and I'm pretty sure there's like 2 or 3 different articles about that floating around the internet. I know because I've seen at least two or three of them. But it was just weird that just kind of just threw that in, and not necessarily threw that in there, but the way they just plugged that in there like that, just like, well, we want this. It's almost like they said, okay, we needed a way to plug, Rogue One in there properly to this other thing that has been around for just as long, but didn't have or at least in the old canon, did not have a direct tie to anything specific. And now we have this. But that being said, it was a good issue. Outside of that, that was the only weirdness about it. Because it was like, well, like I said, just written in the middle of not plugging into anything that had anything to do with that before. And during the course of this battle, bloop, this pops up. That happens. And now they're out there fighting the Empire, trying to escape the little death trap that was made for him by this queen, who probably will show up again at some point. That is Star Wars 52. It's still a good read, mind you, but it's like it was like I said, and I did love seeing the whole Rogue Squadron thing because like I'm a fan of those games.
This arc started in 50, didn't it?
49, I believe.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I mean, I guess if you take it a little further, it actually started probably about 48 because they were on Mon Cala, you know, and that whole thing and this whole when they got the fleet together, that was kind of like 49 or 50.
I'm just trying to think, like, if you're wanting to pick it up and read it, you have to go back only about 3 issues.
Yes, about 3 or 4 issues.
Yeah.
But like I said, because they do the whole Mon Cala thing, and that's when they have a whole little arc with that, and then that just kind of flows into this.
Yeah.
And if you want some extra flavor, like I said, you would have to read Darth Vader because that kind of goes from before, you know, the Death Star and all that kind of good mess, but is on Mon Cala also. So I'm pretty sure they did that on purpose, obviously. Because you even see something from that started there in here with that whole arc. And actually, and I was pointed out to something. Now that I think about it, there was also a Clone Wars reference within the little bit of the last arc with that Mon Cala stuff, because there was a character that used to show up in Clone Wars that kind of met their fate during the course of that arc. So it's all connected. Which is good because that's what you want your universe to be. And now that now that they have it the way they want to, it is definitely all connected, whether it's questionably loose or not. But it's definitely there.
Alrighty.
So what do we have next, folks?
What's next?
Bueller.
What's next?
Oh no, where's that?
What's next?
I have no idea where that's from.
Where's that from, Dirt?
That's of course now I can't remember the name, but it was that like Ugandan action movie where the guy's narrating over the movie. Like it was like their first commercial action movie release that they made it for like $250. What was that? Captain? Oh man, now I can't remember what it is.
You're going to have me look that up later, but
Like what?
I know, right? Okay, so how about this?
Here it is. It's called "Who Killed Captain Alex?"
What's
There
next?
you go, folks.
And
There's some
that guy, the voice that you hear there, he's like talking during the entire movie.
Oh, that's the first thing that come up in a Google search. How about that?
Oh my gosh.
If you haven't seen it, you got to watch it. Like it is seriously like it's one of those. It's bad and it's so bad it's good. Like they realized at a certain point they were like, all right, now we just got to do this as serious as possible, even though it's so ridiculous.
Oh my gosh. Okay.
Yeah, I'm seeing it's like, wow, the budget's under $200. Anyway, so that's a little something. I want to say that's the raid was way more than that. I know, but somehow I was going to try to tie that in.
Hey, Dirt. You
What?
read Death of the Inhumans #2 as well.
Thank you very much.
I did.
So I thought that this book was, at least for me, based on what I read this week, was good enough to be a potential candidate for Click of the Week. I had a lot of fun reading this, and it's just so weird to see the carnage being wrought upon the Inhumans over the course of these first 2 issues.
Yeah, it's either there's going to be an Infinity Stone that comes into play and undoes this, or Marvel just does not care about these characters anymore.
Right.
Because it is just straight up carnage.
I mean, it was kind of fun to see, and just to get people, because there are a lot of splash pages in this. There's a lot of pages of action in this, so the reading does move along fairly quickly. Just to get people up to speed, the Kree are, there's a faction of the Kree in the aftermath of, unbelievably, I couldn't remember why the Kree homeworld Hala had been destroyed. It was because of the Guardians of the Galaxy and X-Men, the Black Vortex crossover.
Oh, that's right. They finally found a use for that story.
Right, and I'm just like, oh my god, that's what happened in that story. But there's a faction of the Kree that this is very reminiscent of the 2009 Star Trek reboot, where there's a faction of the Romulans who kind of want to take vengeance upon Spock because he's unable to, save. It's a 9-year-old movie, people. I'm not spoiling it. Yeah, right. It was my. I'm not ringing the spoiler bell. It's 9 years old, but I'll not feel guilty. Terrible.
Beastie Boys played also.
Here we go. All right. So that being said, there's reminiscent of that movie in that these Kree are looking to rebuild the Kree homeworld and enlist the Inhumans as what they were supposed to be from the beginning, which is the Inhuman army of the Kree Empire, and that's where the part about join or die comes from in the first issue, and some bad stuff happens to other Inhuman homeworlds, and Black Bolt sees all this happen, and there's a couple of losses on the part of the Inhumans that we know. And in this issue, Black Bolt seeks to strike back, and he does so to a very great extent. You really haven't seen Black Bolt let loose like this in a long time.
Yeah, that was one thing. What really surprised me is when you read the last issue and you saw what was happening to some of these characters, and my initial thought was, well, this is what we're seeing, but this isn't really what's happening. In the next issue, you'll see that, it really plays out differently, but they want you to think that this is going on. And then you open this book and it's like, nope, that's exactly what happened.
Right.
Like,
or it may still be, I was about to say, it may still be what you think. But
right. Yeah. There's still be,
yeah.
well, I didn't read Black Vortex. Could that have something to do with undoing all this or pulling everybody out of a pocket?
I don't know. I can't remember.
Oh, actually, I take it back. Tim might have, but
I read it. We read it. We just can't remember it.
It was so good, you've forgotten everything about it except that it was something to mock.
Right.
That's everything right there.
Pretty much. That's why Angel from the original X-Men is still running around with flaming wings. Come on. It's the only thing I remember from that.
But anyway, back to this book. This is one of those where it's, again, I didn't really expect a lot out of it, but it's Donny Cates writing it, so I figured I'd give it a shot. I read the first issue. I said, okay, obviously they're playing with us. That's not what this is really about. This isn't what's really going on. Issue 2, yep, this is really what it's about. This is really what's going on. And then the end of this issue, again, like seriously? Like, did they just do that in this book? Like, again, either this is all going to be undone or Marvel is just like, we don't care about the Inhumans. They're gone. Their TV show flopped. We can't use them in the movies, so just get rid of them. We're bringing the Fantastic Four back. We own everything in Hollywood now, so just wipe them out. We don't need them.
So I'm going to go ahead and say that everything you just said is probably 100% the case. I have no reason to believe that they're just gonna undo this. Now, sure, if they've become viable again somewhere down the line, they might try to find a way to get them, bring them back. But no, I think they just don't.
But they don't need them now. That if Disney now owns even the Fantastic Four back and Spider-Man back and X-Men back and all that stuff, they don't need the Inhumans at all.
And actually, something else that you just made me bring to mind, and this may or may not have anything to do with anything, but Donny Cates is writing this, and he kind of tends to do this kind of stuff pretty decently, especially where there's a lot of, not necessarily where it gets kind of dark cases, which is probably why they got him doing the Marvel Lights line that's coming back out. But that was just, yeah, I don't think I have no reason to believe that they don't care. They're just the Inhumans are dead at this point. So, interesting. Would you both say that this is like what? It's only what 3 more issues left, 2 more issues left, something like that of this series.
Sure.
Yeah.
4 or 5.
Yeah, I don't remember if it's a 5 issue or 6 issue.
Sure, because I was about to say, has it been interesting enough to keep going?
Oh yeah, I'm definitely.
Definitely.
Yeah. The Inhuman books were always kind of hit or miss with me when they
Same.
did the relaunch a couple years ago. It's like I read them both, but I liked one more than the other, and I ended up dropping one off after a while and just reading the other one. And then they got canceled, and they did something else with the Inhumans, and I was like, I don't really care. I'm just gonna let it go and whatever. And then this one, and I was like, Death of the Inhumans. It's not really what it's gonna be about. And Donny Cates is writing it.
Yeah,
Yeah. I said, well, Donny Cates is writing it. I'll read the first issue. Well, now I'm in. I'm like, here we go. Sign me up on the thing. All of the issues. Here's my money. Just send them to me.
I would just add that, similar to Dirt, I had some interest in the recent relaunch of the Inhumans, but I hate to say this, they had a lot of trouble creating, offshoot characters and spin-off characters that we could really care about. I've always been down to read more about like just the main Inhuman royal family. They did, do okay with like Frank, the NYPD detective, who shoots like ray beams out of his eyes,
right?
And a couple of other characters, but really, I only cared about reading about the Inhuman royal family. So, if you got Black Bolt, like especially with his limited series, which was done so well by Saladin Ahmed, I love reading about Black Bolt because it's more about the expressions and the thought and the thought balloons and the scene setting dialogue as opposed to his own dialogue.
Well, what I really enjoyed most on the other stories was the nightclub the Black Bolt owned and all the stuff that would happen in there. And that to me, like the characters were not as interesting as the location and trying to make everybody work within the confines of that location.
Right.
Like that to me was the interesting part of the story. If they had made a series and just named it after the nightclub, and it was just like the ongoing adventures of random Inhumans and superheroes and whatever that walk through there,
right.
I'd probably read that series too. But as far as the other characters, it's like
the Quiet.
The Quiet Room. Yeah, you get Black Bolt, you get Medusa, you get Lockjaw, and then after that, it's like, well, what about Crystal? Whatever. What about Maximus? Whatever. It's just like once you get past those 3 characters, and Lockjaw's only interesting because he's a big dog, and you're just like, oh, big doggy.
Exactly.
Not even
Bizarro dog.
Like not even Gorgon or Triton?
No.
Nah.
Yeah.
Wait, is Crystal even in this book?
Yes.
Weird. Okay.
Wait, was she?
Yes.
I'll have to go back and look. I don't remember now.
At the very beginning.
Of the first issue or this issue?
This issue. She's
okay.
First issue. She's at the very beginning of this issue as the Inhumans are trying to regroup.
Okay. But anyway, so the Inhumans just never really became much in my eyes anyway. So the fact that if this is what they end up doing with them, then I'm fine with that because it's a fun story.
Mm-hmm.
Gotcha. Cool. Well, that being the case, unless anyone else has anything pressing, we could probably go rapid fire at this point.
Pin it up.
Let me go ahead and get mine out of the way so you guys can do your thing. Ant-Man and the Wasp number 4. So Nadia and Scott are still in the quantum realm, but they thought they found themselves back on Earth, but they come to find out that because of quantum entanglement that they are not home, and the hitchhiker that they picked up or dragged along, I should say, helps them get to somewhere else, or almost helps them get back home. Let's put it that way. There's not really much to it, but it's been a fun story so far. It is what it is. X-Men Gold number 33. Storm's adopted mom dies because of this other death cult, as they're calling it, kind of gets in the way. Before she dies, her mom makes a prayer. Her adopted mom makes a prayer, which somehow gets intercepted by a hammer from Asgard, which means that when Aurora comes to investigate her mom's passing, she meets up with the person that caused her mom's death, and she becomes a Thor again.
Right, it's really kind of like it's not a stepmom, but it's like a stand-in mom. I skimmed this real quick before on my way home.
Yeah, so but it was decent. That was cool. I was like, okay, so we have some ginned up reason for Storm to have a hammer again, for what, the third or fourth time. But it's all good.
Recently, yeah.
Let's see. I guess on the X-Men train, X-Men Gold actually annual number 2, and all I will say is Kitty has her one time at band camp moment.
Okay.
Basically,
does she stick a flute up her nose?
That's what I was gonna say.
It doesn't get to be that point. Nah. But I just said that because she's at summer camp, and so it's basically a story where she's like real young with the X-Men. She just joined X-Men, and she went off to summer camp and has an adventure. And she meets this other mutant who I'm not sure has ever come back up again. But you know, they could have, and I don't know this person because my X history is not all that great. That said, yes, she has an adventure, and I'm assuming they did this because it's going to come back up at some point, but I don't know. Adventures of the Super Sons number 1. So
I actually ended up reading this on the way home tonight.
Oh, cool. So this is basically Damien and John summer vacation. And apparently this takes place in between the ending of Super Son, a couple of issues of the ending of Super Sons. So that's where this whole miniseries is going to take place. They find themselves fighting this one person in the beginning, and then they end up going up against this group, what looks like miniature or kid-like versions of their dad's old enemies, but they're from outer space, something or other like that. So it was a fun issue. Damien, there was a line in the beginning about Damien could be a super villain, and I'm like, yeah, he's always been like that. Like he totally could be like his granddad or something, because he was messing with the he had this the bad guys they were going against. He took the power that they had away from him and was using it against John. I thought that was kind of funny. So that was cool. That was nice. And I think last but not least, well, actually, this is not so much of a review, but just a mention of the fact that The Raid number 1 is out this week. And if you have watched the Raid movies, which you probably should, and actually I should, because I have not watched those movies myself. So I'm only mentioning this for those who actually have. Apparently, this is a 4-issue miniseries that takes place in somewhere in the middle of The Raid 2. So, and it has something to do with a couple of characters in that universe, not so much with the actual story. But from what I keep hearing, The Raid is a great movie, action movie, and you should all watch it if you're into action movies. I don't know yet, even though I do have it, and I will watch them at some point before I read this. And that's it for me. What y'all got?
All right, I only got one other book then, Cosmic Ghost Rider. It's another Donny Cates joint. This one is it's like the weirdest sitcom you could ever think of. It's the murderer now acting as the spirit of vengeance with the baby future serial killer genocidal maniac of the universe team up. And so basically Frank Castle, the Punisher, in the far distant future became the Herald of Galactus, then became the Ghost Rider, then became Thanos's lackey, then went to Valhalla, and then Odin sent him back to Earth, and he came back to a point in time where Thanos was a baby, goes to kill Thanos before he can become the genocidal maniac, and decides instead he's going to raise him the right way and try to turn him into a good guy instead of having him be the villain. So that's the so Yeah, so it's one of the, you need like the Back to the Future Part 2 chalkboard to kind of like keep track of what's going on and where everybody is, and all this kind of crazy stuff that's going on. But it's so fun and it's so awesome. And they actually end up at a planet minutes before Galactus comes to destroy it, just so Frank Castle can have a conversation with Galactus, because the two of them used to run together for a while when he was the Herald of Galactus in the far distant future in an alternate timeline. And so it's just like the crazy stuff that's going on in this book. Like, it makes sense in the story of the book,
Right.
but you can hear me trying to explain it, and I sound like I should be in a rubber room. It's just one of those things where it is so out there and so crazy. It's not the typical type of thing you get from the big two publishers, but it is so fun. It's a great follow-up to the Thanos series that just ended a few months ago. And so far, like, the artwork is good. It's interesting. It's different. It doesn't look like every other book out on the market. And the story is just fun and different and interesting. So again, I really like it. And even if you didn't read that Thanos one and you just want something weird, this is a great one to pick up for just a weird, different, fun story.
Nice. All right, so I got the last books for rapid fire. I have been keeping up with Batman post. Spoiler alert. Although not really, because we all know that Catwoman jilted Batman at the altar. In the aftermath of this, we're dealing with a case where Batman may have taken out some of his aggressions on one Victor Freeze, and Bruce Wayne finds himself in a jury room dealing with the guilt or innocence of Victor Freeze and the deaths of three women, and it's an interesting drama playing out in this jury room, and it's pretty well written. It's a definite departure from some of the wordless comics that we happen to get from Tom King in the courtship of Catwoman by Batman, that I know myself and PCN_Dirt sometimes had trouble reading and or enjoying. So I like this book. It's well written. It's a possible click of the week for me. Captain America #2 is I feel like this should have also been part of issue #1, and then obviously Roddy Cat would have the same comeback and say, well, Marvel's not going to put out one book when it could put out two books for basically the same price. We're still dealing with Steve Rogers dealing with the aftermath of Secret Empire, and we find that he is looking for answers to what he feels is his own issues with his reputation and some of the things that he has to do to kind of get back into the good graces of the American public. So there's a familiar technology that Cap employs, and we jump right into maybe not a crossover, but at least a guest appearance by the character who headlines Ta-Nehisi Coates' other book, and that's a pretty big spoiler right there. So that's my other book for the week.
All right, clicks of the week. And we got Tim's already, who says Infinity Wars #1 was his click of the week.
I think I'm going to second that, although Death of Inhumans comes in very close.
I've got to go with my guys and stick with Mr. Miracle.
Nice. Wait, really? Really?
That's funny on two accounts, but you would have had to be here for the
Wait. You pulled out the air horn?
Air horns going on here.
Oh boy.
Oh, all right. I don't know how to follow that one up, but you know what? I'm going to. I kind of want to pull it out for Star Wars 52, but I think I'm actually going to go with dirt on this one with Mr. Miracle.
Nice.
Wonderful. Bravo. I love that. Oh, it's great.
All right. Then with that, I got to run. We were running a little late today, so I gave you guys a little extra time here, but I do have to run. So
Nice.
thanks for having me, guys. I'll see you next week.
It is dirt.
Absolutely.
All right.
And head off into the new section of the program. We have an ad.
Yep. So our first ad for the night is for Funko Fun at First Sight, your home for exclusive collectibles such as their world-famous pop vinyl bobbleheads, apparel, including t-shirts, hats, and socks, and brand merchandise such as custom DIY pop figures, art books, and skateboards. And now, the listeners of the KLIQ Nation's Comic Book Chronicles can enjoy 10% off your entire purchase when shopping at Funko. To place your first order with 10% off, and to help keep our show free for you, go to our network website at cspn.us. That's cspn.us. Then click on the Keep Our Podcast Free link at the top of the page. From there, scroll down to the Funko link and place your order. When you get to the checkout, put in the offer code SHOP10 for your 10% off discount. Funko through cspn.us. Do it today.
All right, and here we go with the cinematic news. Why did I not just keep it where it was? I do not know. And we start with the cinematic news as we tend to do, and I totally forgot to get all of them because actually, well, I'll take it back. I was in the midst of getting them when we started, and I totally forgot. So that's okay because we're gonna roll it like this. DC's Titans reportedly dropping all 13 episodes at once. So when it hits, they're gonna basically do like Netflix.
Okay.
Yeah. Oh, big deal. Sorry. Wonder Woman 1984. Get your first look at.
Sorry, I was putting in our clicks of the week.
Oh, it's okay. All right, because I did forget to get yours. No problem. No
I was just typing them in, so
that's fine. Get the next one. Get your first look at an 80s coiffed Pedro Pascal. I don't know who that is, but he's going to be on Wonder Woman 84, and he's going to play someone, as this thing says. He looks like some sort of, well, that's their speculation. And apparently he plays in Narcos on Netflix. I don't know who it is, but nevertheless, hey, there you go.
Okay. Next up, Matt Reeves says his Batman movie is definitely not based on Year One. That's a shame.
Yeah, is it?
I mean, I guess we've already seen a lot of young Batman stuff. You know, Batman Begins.
Sure. Also, he does go on to say here that is excited to be focused very specifically on a tale that is defining for him and yet very personal to him. Obviously, we're going to do a origin tale or anything like that. We're doing a story that is definitely Batman, though, and trying to tell a story that's emotional and yet is really about him being the world's greatest detective and all the things that, for me, since I was a kid, made me love Batman. The takeaway from that, thankfully, is we're not getting another origin story. Mm-hmm. If you don't know Batman's origin story by now, I don't know what to tell you. So that's probably one good thing that might be coming out of this. Supergirl continues to have the best U.S. government by casting Brent Spiner as the vice president. Brent Spiner, aka Data, aka a whole bunch of other things. I think he was also in Independence Day and a whole bunch of other stuff. Is going to play the vice president of the United States under Linda Carter, aka the OG Wonder Woman, aka the president of the United States in this role. And I guess he's going to be starting that, next season. And so. Cool.
All righty. Next up, Constantine, City of Demons. animated movie release date. So this is going to be released on October 9th, 2018 on Ultra HD Blu-ray Combo Pack, and digital.
So yeah, City of Demons, I believe is that same. It is definitely that same animated series that has been out on the CWC for a minute, and I believe, I don't know if it's in this article or not. It doesn't say that, but if the first season of that is already out, but it ended on what seemed to be a cliffhanger, and I believe they're going to do another movie to wrap that all up. Whether that's going to be in this or not, I'm not sure.
Okay.
Or this might be it, because it says, so this might be actually it, as opposed to that. It says it's going to be a full-length R-rated movie film based on the animated acclaimed series from CWC. So I guess this is going to be the end of that, which is weird.
Okay.
But here's the thing. And if you haven't seen that show, it's actually pretty decent to be so short. And I'm sure Constantine fans have already been all over it. DC Super Pets to star in an animated movie, because they've been doing a bunch of those, as if you noticed last week. So yeah, there's going to be an animated movie. I don't know when it's going to come out, and I don't think this came out with the other ones that I talked about last week. But this is going to be something, I guess, similar to the Teen Titans Go one, and this looks like the Franco style, the comic style, what they're doing. That'll be cool.
Okay. Next up, Angela Bassett confirms 2 more MCU characters survived Infinity War. So she confirms in an interview with Screen Rant that she survived, and as did Shuri.
Yes, which I could have sworn we saw somewhere in Infinity War. We thought we saw her at the end of Infinity War. I could be wrong, but you know what? It's now on digital, so you can always go back and find out if that's the case. For sure.
Speaking of,
oh yeah, Leslie Jones live tweeted Infinity War, and it's hilarious, according to this article. Leslie Jones, as we know from Saturday Night Live fame, and I saw one of the tweets from her, and I was thinking about that. I was like, wait, is she just seeing that? And then I realized it's out on digital right now, or she just, because it came out on digital. So yeah, she was live tweeting it, and she was just as much as a trip as she usually is, and she was it's kind of funny. If you hadn't had a chance to check out her Twitter feed on that one, you can check out this article or her Twitter feed.
all right. Next,
okay, go ahead.
why Avengers Infinity War had to depower Thanos' Black Order. And we're kind of sure why, because they're pretty overpowered in the comics.
Yeah.
And I think that was a pretty basic, that's pretty much the basic explanation behind it.
Yeah, that's not right. But yeah, basically, I think was it Joe Russo, one of the Russo brothers, said that they had to do just to kind of get them in line with the MCU, which, yeah, as you just said, it's kind of the thing. And they even there's even a quote here: "The Black Order, in particular, worked hard to adjust them to the Marvel Cinematic Universe." Russo explained. In the Hickman run, I thought the characters were too powerful. Damn if they weren't. That was me. And nobody wants the sub-villain to outshine the villain. And we adjusted the power set so they lined up in a way that was more interesting with our heroes, which is why Maul's a wizard.
Right.
Yeah. So if you're not read Infinity and stuff that we read up to it, that was a really good run-up to Wars. Comic wise. Anywho, James Gunn rehired, unlikely. Disney not in a rush for Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. So talked about the kerfuffle from his firing from old tweets last week, and there's still been the guy even mentioned the petition and all the other people coming out, about it. So this article is just saying that they probably there was also an article from another place saying that he possibly could get rehired, but this one from the newsroom is saying that's probably not going to happen.
Right. I mean, obviously nothing is set in stone. You know, shareholders may have something to say about this, although they probably had something to say about this leading up to this. I was unplugged there for a while, but I did happen to see when this news broke, and this was my response.
Hey, boo!
I don't know. Like,
And well,
you would have to go back to last week for my thoughts on it.
Right, because ultimately I understand why, and we're all supposed to be accountable for what we say and or tweet, but still,
Hey, boo!
so
yeah, the thing that led to it was still kind of bullshit.
yeah, so that's some just bad stuff right there. So
yeah, moving right along.
Black Panther's still making money apparently.
Apparently, so Black Panther hits 1.346 billion worldwide in theaters, and apparently here in the States, if you're listening to this overseas, and thank you for doing that if you are, it's been on video for a while, and it's probably been on video in other places for now, but apparently it's still in theaters here in the States, according to this article. Well, it says, despite being released on home video in early May, Black Panther is still playing in a reported 18 screens somewhere. So I'm assuming that means here in the States.
Okay.
Yeah. So good on them. That's a lot of money. Just keep that train pushing. Lord knows I've watched it a couple of different times on video. Sony. Okay, sorry.
I mean, you know, it's up to. It's second in the worldwide 2018 race, behind only Avengers: Infinity War,
which that was kind of to be expected for one reason or another. I mean, Infinity War was a big movie.
Oh, and the funny part is, Infinity War still has not gone into home video yet,
which is exactly, I was about to mention that too. Yeah. And still
it's about to hit, you know, it's just now hitting digital. There's going to be a lot of people picking this up to rewatch because they just want to see what happened again, you know?
Yeah, I'll be one of them. In fact, I totally forgot that it was just on digital, and I went to the local shop of Big Box to go pick it up, and I was like, oh, right, it's on digital.
Yeah, it's going to be another couple of weeks, I think.
So look out for that. But hey, if you don't want to wait, it's out there now. Sony is developing a Kraven the Hunter movie with the writer of The Equalizer 2, which I have not seen the first Equalizer yet.
Hey, boo!
Give it up, Sony, give it up.
Yeah, you know, Sony's trying to get that money outside of the partnership, or as much money as they can before Disney comes in and buys them out too.
Buys them too, yeah.
But also, I'm gonna go ahead and take this next one with it because Deadpool 2's colossal actor is down to play Kraven the Hunter. So as soon as the news dropped that Sony was doing this Kraven the Hunter movie, what is his name? Stefan Fitchik? I don't know his name. I apologize for screwing up your name. It's almost like I'm not even gonna try it again. Saw the article from CBR and just said, I want this on Twitter, which I suppose that means, as this article is speculating, it's I guess they're speculating that he wants to do the movie and not that he wants the movie to happen. Which, if you look at that tweet, kind of makes it sound like, you know, that's what he wants.
Okay.
I don't know. Could be me. I don't know. Ooh, and they misspelled Kraven's Last Hunt. That's not good. Anyway, let's move along because it is a thing. It's a thing. Whether it's he's the light of day, we don't know.
All right. So the X-Men Days of Future Past co-star, quote, vanishes.
I feel bad for putting this in here slightly. So it is a story of Fan Bingbing left social media because she's wanted for tax evasion by the Chinese government.
Okay.
why this, and granted, I think we talked about this before because this is not the first time this has come up. But the only reason why I put this in here for that headline and the fact that Fan Bin Bing 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 played Blink in Days of Future Past, which of course she vanished.
Of course.
It's been the joke surrounding this article since it came out.
Hold on, that's not what I was looking for. Here it is. There it is.
So yeah, pay your taxes, folks.
All right. Next up, this Star Wars Rebels Blu-ray clip celebrates Hera and Kanan's powerful relationship.
I am holding up, if you're watching the video, I'm holding up a copy of Star Wars Rebels Season 4, and because Rebels is awesome. But yeah, so there's a on that particular Blu-ray is a feature about Hera and Kanan's relationship. It was a good one. I still haven't actually seen this season, so I'll be looking forward to watching it. Moving right along. Mark Hamill carries Carrie Fisher on the first day of Star Wars Episode 9 production. So they have just started work on Episode 9, and I think Mark Hamill was not the first one. I think Ryan Johnson also said something, but on Twitter, as Mr. Hamill is wanting to do, puts up this tweet that you should be seeing on the screen. If you're watching the video, and you should watch the video sometimes because it's cool. It's bittersweet facing my final chapter without her. She's simply irreplaceable. I'm finding solace in the fact that she won't be replaced, and would love the worldwide outpouring of affection from those who loved her and love her when they heard the news. So apparently, we found out also from this that she's not going to be replaced in the movie, which is great.
Cool.
You definitely will be missed.
All right. Next up, Skybound is going to turn Top Cow's Eclipse into a television series. Okay. That's a comic book series by writer Zach Kaplan and artist Giovanni Timpano.
I think we were probably hitting the tipping point at this point. Because, yeah, every other comic book is being turned into a show. Which is weird in certain cases because there are a lot of TV shows that could be comic book shows.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Still going to happen. Still a thing. Speaking of which, Dylan Dog, Nathan Never, more in development for TV as a part of a shared universe. Not only are we getting someone's doing the bingo on this, and I'm sure that two or three more.
Who? Dylan Dog and Nathan Never?
So Dylan Dog was a book I've heard about. Still don't know anything about it. Nathan Never, I've never heard about. But yeah, so live action TV and television adaptations of the Italian comic books, Dylan Dog, Nathan Never, Mr. No, Dampier, Dragonero, Il Confine, and Martin Mystery are all in the works from Bonelli Entertainment. First reported by Variety. The development, the blah 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 blah. It doesn't matter. A bunch of Italian comic books are getting TV shows.
Okay. The only thing we can respond to that is with
yeah.
Okay, next up, bawl your eyes out again when Transformers the movie comes to theaters September 27th. And when we say Transformers the movie, we mean the one that had this in the TV series,
and also would have worked there. The Transformers theme song from said movie.
Oh, the touch.
Yes, or at the very least the opening bars.
Oh,
yeah. Which I thought about that. I should have. Well, had I thought about it, I would have mentioned it beforehand. But it doesn't matter because hey, if you've never seen this movie, you should because it's a great movie. So yeah, let's see what is going to be a one-night event on Thursday, September 27th at 7 p.m. local time.
Oh man, I don't know if we're going to postpone the show for that though.
I mean, I have 2 copies of that That,
Yeah.
actually, I have 3 copies of that movie because I have a VH copy, so I don't need to do that. But I've never seen it, and I don't recall ever seeing it on the movie. That would be something I probably would see if it's going to be local. I don't know. I doubt it though, because like I said, I got the movie, so it's not like I can't see it. But just to see it on the big screen would be kind of cool. And they did like HDify it, for their last Blu-ray release. So, but if you get a chance, go check your tickets are going to go on sale, I believe, tomorrow. Actually, yes.
Okay.
Can be purchased online at participating movies. So check Fandango, whoever else around GNC. And
Sorry.
no, actually that was perfect.
Trigger happy.
Lamorne Morris cast in Vin Diesel's Bloodshot adaptation, not animation. There probably should be an animation, but so Lamorne Morris plays in New Girl, and he's going to be in the Bloodshot movie, and apparently he's going to play a character called Wilfred Wiggins, because comics are nothing without alliteration, who is described as a young scientist who becomes Bloodshot's unlikely ally. And this is almost what I was thinking. I was like, okay, he's going to be the comic sidekick. Kinda. I don't. That's just me speculating. But they can't have something like that without it. But we shall see.
Gotcha. And last up for cinematic news is Linda Hamilton returns as Sarah Connor. Look at untitled Terminator sequel.
That's pretty good.
Because I can't read Sarah Connor in any other voice other than Arnold as the Terminator.
You were almost like, come with me if you want to live.
Yeah, pretty much. So
there's going to be another Terminator movie, and I want to say, wait, is this 5th one?
6th.
So wait,
6 because there were 3 Terminators, and then with the whatchamacallit, 3 Terminators with Arnold, and then without, I think.
There was no, I thought it was like 1 without. And then,
I could be wrong.
Because he came in at the end of one of them, I know, and then there was Genesis. Well, wait, yeah, one of those, and I think they kind of 3 is kind of like under the bus or whatever.
Well, no, there was 3 Genesis and Salvation.
Yes.
So this is 6.
Well, the reason why I'm questioning it, because I could have sworn that maybe that's still about this, but I could have sworn I saw an article today about Arnold is trying to get another one off the ground, and they said on the tweet, but I could be so I don't know.
Okay,
we still get another Terminator sequel. Then Hamilton's still kicking, and if you're seeing the picture, this is a picture of her and 2 co-stars. Every now and then I get the hankering to watch the Terminator movies. But no, this could happen. I still want to watch those other 2, even though they're not great. Because I've seen bits and pieces of them. But moving right along, we are going into the comic book news, and I should say that there's still been a couple of there's some good stuff in the KLIQ Blanket if you have the show notes link. And there's still a couple of solicits for October that are still coming out. So there is that. Venom, how Marvel just completely changed the symbiote's origin story. I feel like we kind of sort of mentioned this last week, even though I don't think we talked about Venom number 4, which is they're referring to. But I know, we were talking about something else last week, and we brought up the fact that they're kind of changing Venom's origin story. Not necessarily wiping away what the stuff that's been done, but just kind of padding over it a little bit.
Okay.
So, and this kind of goes into what they did, because there was another, whatever book we were talking about last week that kind of was doing something similar. We got brought up.
All right. Next up, Unstoppable Wasp is unstoppable and has become an ongoing series.
Again. So we talked about this already, that Unstoppable Wasp and Iceman are both coming back because they both got canceled. They were supposed to be both miniseries. I believe Iceman is still a miniseries, and Unstoppable Wasp is now an ongoing series again. That is the update to that. Marvel's Spider-Man's PS4 game has gone gold, which, for those of you not in the know, meaning that it is getting they've done developing it and it's about to get pressed out to be to go out to
For sale.
Yep. But it's not going to go out for sale until September 7th. I can't wait because it's going to be a good game from what I'm seeing so far. But it is good to go, basically. So if anything else needs to be done with it, they'll patch it just like every other game.
Alrighty. Coming to Marvel Unlimited in August 2018. So this month, Marvel Unlimited is chock full of cosmic action. So recent stuff like Infinity Countdown, Adam Warlock, No Surrender, still coming back. So yeah, there's a whole list of stuff.
Yeah, that tells us of suspense. Minis are starting. This is a whole bunch of stuff. If you should, if you want to catch up on a lot of, they don't have everything, and this is not an endorsement of. Well, this is kind of an endorsement of Marvel Unlimited, but we're not getting paid for it. I should point that out. But Marvel Unlimited is a pretty good source if you want to get a lot of back issues, or extra on the free because it's whatever the service it is. Anyway, Marvel's digital code includes Cloak and Dagger #1 for free. So I did not realize that when I put in my codes for the books that I got this week, and I thought it was a mistake because sometimes there's a mistake and there's they'll put in one book for another, right. But then they end up going back and changing it or whatever. Apparently, yeah. So if you do any digital codes for this week from the following books, which is pretty much all of them, you might as well go ahead and say. That came out this week, you get a code for Cloak and Dagger #1, which is the book that I think they're on 3.
Yeah, they're on 3.
Yeah, so you get to check that out for whatever reason, probably having something to do with the show, I would imagine. Or cross promotion. Or maybe another reason, we don't know. But hey, check it out.
Next up. This Avengers coding kit lets kids build their own superpowers like Shuri. So apparently there's a Little Bits Avengers Hero Inventor kit, and Roddy is kind enough to put this up on the video screen. So apparently you can build stuff like your own repulsor gauntlet.
Yep. And I would imagine, there's some coding. So so you put the stuff together, and there's some little bit of coding they can do, which is neat. I wish they had stuff like this. Well, they had some stuff like this when we were little, but not to this extent. So this is cool. I would totally almost get this for myself. I mean, I already know about coding, but still, just to see what all this entails would be cool. So yeah, it comes out August 24th for $150. So if you have a little one, or if you have a little one that is interested in coding and they like superheroes type stuff, you should check this out. Maybe they'll be interested in building and coding and all that kind of good mess. Apparently, this is the second one they had. They had a $100 Star Wars Droid Adventure Kit, which I do remember that, which lets you create a motorized R2-D2.
All right.
We already kind of talked about this, but the origins of Rogue Squadron now have a much closer bond to the Star Wars movies. Earlier. New Star Wars Lego sets include an X-Wing starfighter. So yeah, there's a Star Wars X-Wing that you can build from the Lego set. Probably not as intricate as the Voltron one that we saw recently, but there's the Sandwalker from the Jawas, and there's also like the throne room. And I believe that is it. It's Snoke's throne room from Last Jedi, and that's for $70. And looks like the crawler they don't have any prices for those. Oh wait, yes it is. It's $140 for the sand crawler, and $80 for the X-Wing.
Okay. Yeah. All right. So, Batman and Batgirl lead the next wave of Funko cereal. I did not know Funko was making cereal boxes and cereal.
Oh wait,
cereal boxes?
You must not have actually a series. Yeah, so you must not have been here that week where we talked about this.
Nah, I've been off for a couple of weeks now. So
Yeah, but I don't know if it was in one of those weeks or before that. Regardless, yeah. So Funko's doing a set of cereals. I think the cereals themselves are probably the least interesting thing about these, because if you're looking at the video, like all there are is just basically Fruit Loops of different colors, not unlike or Frankenberry, Crunchberry, and stuff. So at least those had marshmallows in them. But I think the big thing about these are, one, the boxes themselves, and two, the fact that they come in with a little prize, that being a little Funko Pop,
mini Funko Pop, yeah.
either keychains or just straight up little mini figures. Those are the basically the takeaways from this whole thing. But yeah, there are actually boxes, and I don't think I can't remember what was in the first wave, but yeah, this is the second wave.
It says the initial wave featured such themes as Mega Man, Freddy Krueger, and Gollum.
Was that? Because I could just wonder, there was also another one for.
I'm reading off of what you took out of the article, so.
Sure. But yeah, there was also a superhero. There was but I can't remember what the other ones. So yeah, they got bunches of stuff. But it's weird, but that's the thing. So let's see. Hawkman discovers the true meaning. Oh, I'm sorry. What were you gonna say?
Yeah, no, I was gonna say next up.
Yeah, Hawkman discovers the true meaning behind his iconic Horus symbol, and this is a spoiler for Hawkman #2. I don't think any of us has read it, but yeah, I guess there's supposed to be some deeper meaning than what we know to be from his symbol.
Really?
Yes.
You can't handle the truth.
Yeah.
Hawkman can, apparently.
Because hey, if you know anything about Hawkman, his origin and things around it change every other blue moon, every other moon. So next up,
DC debuts Jason Todd's new Red Hood mask, costume, and emblem.
As you can see from the video, got some art from that.
It's very what's that video game that bombed as a movie? Assassin's Creed.
Oh, okay, yeah, I see that. So yeah, that'll be coming out. They'll be showing that in Red Hood and Outlaws #26.
Yeah, I mean, I never played the game, but I knew that's what it was called.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it was a pretty good game.
Okay.
I still haven't seen, and yeah. But yeah, apparently because there was another article like last week or so. I think I may or may not have outed Bruce Wayne's secret identity from some stuff happened. I think he killed the Penguin.
Oh, okay.
In issue, or it looks like he killed the Penguin in 24. We don't know if that actually happened or
Alrighty.
But yeah, regardless, it started something new, and he's got a new costume coming out of it.
All right.
Much Nick. Comics team up for comics set in the Diablo universe, so you can stay a while and listen. My cane is not that great, so I apologize. So Titan Comics and Blizzard Entertainment, the folks what made the Diablo series, have announced an all-new comic series set in the universe of the critically acclaimed and genre-defining action role-playing game Diablo. Written by Marv Wolfman and illustrated by Piotr Kowalski, Diablo will launch with a 4-part miniseries in 2018. The comic will follow a group of zealous scholars and crusaders as they discover the true origins of humanity. Will the faith survive these shocking revelations? No word on whether Deckard Cain is going to show up. Kind of doubt it.
Okay. Alrighty. Next up, watch SDCC. Travis McElroy and Clint McElroy talk the Adventure Zone graphic novel and its upcoming sequel. So apparently, that was announced at San Diego Comic-Con.
Apparently. So if you don't know the McElroy brothers, Griffin and Justin were up until fairly recently video game reviewers, personalities that work for Polygon. Their brother Travis and them and their father started a role-playing a actual play podcast called The Adventure Zone. Got widely popular through a lot of folks. They haven't listened to it yet. Regardless, and now they have branched out because Justin and Griffin are no longer with Polygon, and they're doing their own thing, such as this. Again, then the graphic novel is written by Clint, their dad, or Clint, Justin, Griffin, and Travis, which is their dad and 3 brothers, and featuring art by Carrie Beach. Don't know how to pronounce that one, which I feel like I've been saying that way too much. Follows the first arc of the podcast Balance campaign, which is the D&D campaign they were running when they first started it. So, good news for fans of the of Adventure Zone and the McElroys.
Okay.
And oh yeah, Dirt put this in here. Comics and graphic novel sales down 6.5% in 2017, according to a new estimate by ICV2 and Comicron. The comics and graphic novel market slips with sharper declines in comic stores and newsstand sales, mitigated by stronger sales in book channel and digital.
Yeah.
So
I'm not surprised. I think 2017 had a pretty weak showing in terms of the major events.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So as you can see from this chart, like it was going up and up and up and up until 2017, which I think finally kind of hit a point. Whether it stays that way this year or whether we will not. So, but we'll see. I'm sure by this time next year.
Gotcha.
Last but not least, Youngblood 13 and 14 canceled, spinning off into Image Comics event. So Youngblood 13 and 14, which were supposed to be coming out in, I believe, October. Excuse me, no, I'm sorry. Next month, written by our hometown folk, Chad Bowers, been canceled because these 2 issues were a part of the new Blood War arc, or Blood Wars, as Liefeld called it, Thursday, but were pushed back from their original July 25th launch to November 8th. So wait, so they've not been canceled, just pushed until November, according to this.
They might use the content from those books to, kind of be like a prime or alpha book to a crossover, maybe.
Maybe, but it sounds like so it will be reframed as the start of a standalone event series from Image Comics. So they're just basically being repurposed. Sounds like, but this article made it sound like they were canceled. But it also says here that it was pushed. So anyway, regardless, those 2 books are no longer coming out as they were originally intended to. And
okay.
That, folks, is that for the news. And I believe before we end this off, we got another ad.
We do?
And actually something else, but we'll get to that first.
Our last ad for the night is for Wink. Wink is a world of wine delivered right to your door. From rosé to Cabernet to Torronté, Wink has over 100 styles of wine to discover. Ever try an orange wine? Wink connects you to a world of exclusive wines tailored to your tastes and delivered directly to your door. Wink delivers 4 bottles of wine to you every month with free shipping. You can pick your own bottles or let Wink choose and match to your taste. It doesn't cost a thing to become a member, and you can skip or cancel anytime. And now the listeners of the KLIQ Nation's Comic Book Chronicles can enjoy an exclusive discount of $20 off your first order. To place your first order with $20 off, and to help keep our show free for you, go to our network website at cspn.us/wink. That's cspn.us/WINC. Wink wines through cspn.us. Do it today.
About you might want to drink an orange wine while you're reading that Tiger miniseries. Before we head out of here, got a goodie bag. I did mention this earlier on the Instagrams. Oh, this is the perfect one to do too. That I got I think he might be actually watching. Shout out to Matt Wayne 97.
Shout out to Matt Wayne 97,
friend of the show. even closer friend to our own Agents_7 here. But he was as he tends to do, go to San Diego Comic-Con every year, and sometimes he asks us if we want some things from there, and of course sometimes we oblige him. So he does the dirty work that we can't do ourselves, and I appreciate it. Anyway, like I said, there was a couple of things that I was looking forward to. One of which was a set of Wu-Tang Transformers figures. They don't transform, but nevertheless they're just cool looking. So they're little miniature figures. There were 4 of them. He was and he got all 4 of them with me. I'm only putting this up one out because the rest of them are in the box, and we don't really need to have time for that one. But it's Soundwave, so it's all good. So you kind of can't, you may or may not be able to tell. It is in the black and gold, the colorings of the Wu-Tang symbol. But a Soundwave, and it's got the Wu-Tang logo on his chest.
That's cool.
This is awesome. And as soon as I get this room situated, see the Wu-Tang single right there. And it's by Bait. I don't think I've ever actually heard of this company before, but nevertheless, I'm glad it's here. So I will be looking forward to putting those up when I clear out some space in this room, because it's quite a mess. That being said, we have come to the end of another exciting episode of this here show.
I just wanted to throw. I was about to say. I thought you were going to show them all. I was just going to throw out a big thank you to @MattWang97. My goodie box was filled with a pretty cool thing. It's downstairs away from my desk. I don't want to run downstairs and delay the podcast anymore to grab it. But what I did get was the Marvel Legends Red Skull and the Tesseract.
Oh, nice.
So I'm looking forward to unboxing that and having a model Tesseract to go with my model Mjolnir, my model Captain America Shield, and all by Marvel Legends. And I also got the Art Adams convention art book. So thanks to @MattMag97 for that. Those are pretty cool.
Yes, thank you very much for doing that for us. We always appreciate it, and hopefully one of these days, at least some of us will be at San Diego. Although we appreciate you risking your neck not your neck. I shouldn't say that like that, but
using your valuable time to help us get cool stuff
on the front. Yeah, exactly. Getting on the floor and using your valuable time on all that kind of good mess up. We definitely do appreciate it. That being said, we're now at the end of the show, and my voice is giving out some kind of way. So let me just go ahead and quickly say Agent_70 on Twitter and Instagram. PC_Dirt on Twitter. Pop Culture Net on Twitter. Pop Culture Network and I Need Comics.coms for Dirt. TimDog98. That's TimDogG98 on Twitter. That's CB Cron on Twitter. That's KLIQ Nation. That's DKLIQNATION for one Tim Dog, and of course the KLIQNation.com. And for myself, Roddycat @Roddycat on Twitter, @NewsNerdsNeed. No underscore in Roddycat, by the way, because I know there's not nobody cares, but I'm the only one without an underscore. News Nerds Need on Twitter. There's the News Nerds Need Reddit. You can go check that out. And also CB Cap's Instagram, where I need to get better about putting out stuff on that. You can find this podcast on Apple iTunes, aka Apple Podcasts, and Google Play, and on the CSP and SoundCloud channel. And of course, as always, shop.cspn.us, where you can get merchandise from this here show and other shows on the network. And definitely check us out on cspn.us, along with other fine podcasts, where there's a lot of good stuff over there, and including, I believe, a new show that just came up, which the name escapes me at this moment. But nevertheless, you can go to the cspn.us and go check all of that out. And as we say about this time, we will be back. We're not definitely on Movie Protocol next week. So we'll be back
out next week?
Not that I can think of, no. I just wanted to make sure that I was like, well, because sometimes that happens. But nevertheless, we will let you know by our individual Twitter accounts should something like this occur, but we definitely don't have a movie protocol. So with that, and for everyone here, we wish you a good night. And as we like to say, this is the Comic Book Chronicles, and we are out.
Would you believe it's Dr. Doom?
What's on your evil mind?
Oh, you